Welcome back to Tech Tuesday on All Sides. I'm your host, Ann Fisher. Women make up more than half of the general workforce, but that number drops to 1 in 4 when it comes to those working in tech. Gender, race, income, and geography can all be barriers to pursuing a career in tech. A national program, TechCore, is headquartered in Columbus and seeks to bring tech skills to these underrepresented groups in grades K through 12. Lisa Chambers is the National Executive Director of TechCore, a nonprofit organization that promotes equal access to computer science programs, skills, and resources for students, again, in grades K through 12. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Ann.
And Kasey Wilson is a software engineer at JPMorgan Chase and a graduate of TechCore. She also is the first African-American woman to graduate from Ohio Dominican University with a computer science degree. Welcome to the show, Kasey.
How are you?
Good, thanks. Kasey, you developed an interest in technology early on, watching your father, who taught himself to repair computers. I can't even. How did that early exposure stoke your interest in technology?
Having my father being able to be in the house and work on his computers was always it brought that curiosity of what he was doing, how he did it, and why he liked to do it. He always had computers open in the house, or he always had them around the house, and it was quite interesting to me. Not something that my sister was interested in, but it really did interest me in how he did that.
And so when you went to Centennial High School in Columbus, you went to a TechCore summer camp. Compare and contrast your experience at Centennial and the access you had to technology there versus what you were getting in the summer camp.
So at Centennial High School, I was able to take more advanced courses. They put me in classes where teachers were a little bit more challenging, and that led me to want to take more, we could say, the AP courses and whatnot throughout my high school years. Mm-hmm. Eventually, seeing that, when I went to the office and I saw the ad for TechCore and they had the packet to fill out, so I could actually fill it out and get what would we call it? It's the sign-up packet. Uh-huh. So it was pretty cool because they had some mathematics questions on there, and that's something that I really, really took interest in throughout all of my years in school. And that was something that I knew would challenge me. Then it turns out it was actually a summer camp, or you could say a summer program that had a curriculum based on programming for web development.
So Lisa Chambers, talk about how TechCore came to be and how you've managed, and what's your guiding philosophy.
Well, Ann, TechCore has been around since 1995. Our founder, Gary Beach, really kind of had a vision of almost a high-tech Peace Corps, if you will. Mm-hmm. So in this country, we had more and more folks that were identifying themselves as technology professionals. But on the flip side, we had K-12 schools who were just starting to think about how to use technology and technology tools in the teaching and learning process. So TechCore was born originally to connect those technology professionals who had the passion, who had the skill, with schools in their community so they could work on different types of technology-related projects. If you fast forward to today, and we are really focusing in on that just not enough kids in the United States get access to high-quality computer science learning experiences. And we believe that that is something that all kids should have access to. And so our work now really focuses on that. So we do two things. We develop computer science programs for students in 3rd through 12th grade, and then we recruit, train, and deploy technology talent to implement those programs. And so we're still, kind of the heart of who we were. So locally, volunteers out of companies like Nationwide or JPMorgan Chase, IBM, are now taking TechCore programs out into the community and implementing those programs.
So you're a nonprofit. You're getting corporate support to get this out there.
Absolutely. We get a blended, have a blended revenue stream, if you will.
And the challenge is, I would think that, particularly with in lower income areas, particularly, and uh, rural areas, it's just literally the physical access to the technology or the internet.
Absolutely. I mean, I think certainly, devices and connectivity are a big issue. And that is not necessarily our focus, right? So we like to stay in our lane because there are organizations that are doing work there, and we think of them as partners. But once we get that access, and the next step is making sure that our technology is being used for a higher purpose, that we're not just getting computers out there and then we're teaching kids how to type, right? Mm-hmm. Or how to use, Microsoft Word, and then we feel like we've done the technology class. And in fact, that's still happening in a lot of schools in this country. We want to teach the kids about the technology behind the technology, because one, we just feel like those are really important skills for kids to have, regardless of what they decide to do. But also in this country, we have a talent shortage. And a lot of research says that's because we're not exposing our kids. It's not that they don't have access. I mean, in this country, kids have an interaction with their first piece of technology before their second birthday. So it's not the stuff, it's what we're doing with the stuff that we feel is most important.
Right. I mean, Kasey Wilson was exposed in a way that most of us will never be. Watching her dad take computers apart, that's just scary to think about. And he sort of demystified it for her. So your goal, Lisa Chambers, is not just to have that happening and make it more normal, but also find the Kasey Wilsons out there who, unlike her sister, are intrigued by this.
Absolutely, because we really believe that there are a lot of kids that if we were doing a better job of providing access and exposure to all kids, that one, we probably wouldn't have the talent shortage that we do, because we'd capture interest and young people would know. Kasey came through a program, and this is one of the things I really love about TechCore, is it provides a safe space for kids to try. Right? And so not every kid that comes through a TechCore program is going to, grow up to be Kasey and become a software engineer. But a lot more will have the opportunity to even consider it, to put it in their portfolio of what I might want to do one day, because now I understand it. I know what it means to be a software engineer, or I know what it means to be a data analyst, because I tried that out in that program.
And just having knowledge of that gives someone a foot up.
Absolutely, because you can't be what you can't see and what you haven't tried, right? And so kids today, I mean, they know, like we knew when we were young, you know what a nurse is, you know what a doctor does, you know what a firefighter does, but when we get into this technology space, for a lot of kids, unless they have a parent like Kasey did at home who was engaged in this space, who was providing that access, how would they know? How would they know that maybe they have this real passion? And we've had so many kids who've come through the program who said, I just didn't know that I would like this, and then took hold, kind of found their tribe, and were just all in. And that's happened with our little kids on up to our high school kids.
You're listening to Tech Tuesday on All Sides with Ann Fisher. That is Lisa Chambers. She's National Executive Director of TechCore. It's a nonprofit organization that promotes equal access to computer science programs, skills, and resources for students in grade K through 12. Also with us, Kasey Wilson. She's a software engineer at JPMorgan Chase. She's a graduate of TechCore. She's also the first African-American woman to graduate from Ohio Dominican University with a computer science degree. It reminds me, Lisa Chambers and Kasey Wilson, of when I was reporting on the, back in the day, it was a school district in Appalachia, and one of their greatest challenges was that the highest ranking professional in the community was a teacher. There were no doctors. There were no lawyers. There weren't even any swimming pools. I mean, there was just I think when you make that point, how can you be it if you can't see it? Really sunk into me there. So, Kasey Wilson, you had the benefit of your dad. Fixing computers, self-taught, which is, like I said, like awe-inspiring to me. But what were you finding at Centennial among your classmates? What were their struggles that you saw from your perspective? What were you seeing?
Well, most of my classmates, since it is Columbus City Schools, it's not a private school. You don't have to pay to go there. So the education being free and all, everybody was turning more towards going to the Columbus Downtown High School or going to turn towards getting into a nursing program or whatnot. And that's amazing in itself. But having the opportunity to go through a program like TechCore and then being able to be exposed and want to take that drive to going into college, even in a younger age as a sophomore in high school and a senior in high school, getting that exposure to software engineering, as it was Ohio Dominican's first year having that software engineering program, and me still being a senior in high school, made me think about the type of education that an exposure in education at my school that most people didn't have. Mathematics is required, so people take it every year, and some like it and some don't. And I took it, and then I knew the careers and the type of things that I like to do. So that was something that made me get interested in getting into programs that allowed me to go to college early. And that's what made it easier for me to have that exposure, as well as being able to see that I could be in programs like TechCore, as well as being the first African-American and woman to graduate the Ohio Dominican University with a software engineering degree. That shows me that is something that not a lot of women and African-American women, but only that being said, TechCore is a nonprofit organization, and I definitely came from a home where we were on poverty level. So having that opportunity to be able to have that exposure to technology, and over those years, not only was it computer programming, it was robotics, it was 3D printing, it was being able to also work with kids and see the type of education, but the type of technologies that we weren't, or the schools could not provide us because of funding.
I guess in a way, Lisa Chambers, your dearest wish would be to go out of business because the schools are doing this already, but they can't. I mean, there's lots of reasons why. I mean, just because of the way they're funded, and also because of the pace of technology. That's been a big issue. As soon as they buy one, everything gets outdated so fast. So having an outside source like TechCore kind of makes sense too.
Absolutely. I mean, it would be great, the day we wake up and we know that all kids, have this access, regardless of, their race or ethnicity, regardless of their gender, regardless of their zip code. But we're not there yet. But at the same time, so we're not there. And that means it has to be an all hands, approach to doing this work. And Kasey mentioned how in high school, kids are required to take mathematics. We're not quite there yet with computer science. And right now in the state of Ohio, less than 50% of high schools even offer computer science. And so, in the meantime, what do? We can't just sit and wait, for oftentimes the bureaucracy, right?
Right.
We've got to get going. And that's what I love about these informal educational programs that are out there for kids, is that it provides us something to do in the meantime.
With Kasey Wilson being the first African-American woman to graduate in the computer science degree at Ohio Dominican, that's just telling me she's probably the first African-American woman, or likely one of a very few, on whatever teams she's been on professionally. So how does TechCore, or does TechCore also get into that grooming people to be part of something out, that's where they may be the only kid from Appalachia that's on the team, the only one from Centennial High School for now that's on a team at JPMorgan Chase, or whatever. I mean, is there more to it than just technical skills?
Well, I think building that confidence, knowing that, one of the things that we like to think about in our programs is it's not just about providing that access and exposure, but doing so in a safe and supportive environment where kids are seen is really important to us and baked into the work that we do. And so, if it's, we run some all-girl programs, and we know, a lot of times when girls start out in those single gender situations, that they can really build up that confidence and that leadership. So then once they go into, a mixed gender environment, they're going in with the understanding that I'm here, and I'm ready, let's go. The same would be true with our Black and Brown students. I mean, I'm sure, right now, African American women only make up 3% of the technology workforce in this country. Not because of lack of talent, oftentimes, but lack of opportunity, lack of access. We're not getting enough, girls involved. And then for our corporate friends, we want to make sure that the kids we're sending their way, that they're ending up in environments and in cultures that are saying, we're glad you're here, and we're going to make sure that you understand you belong here.
So you're working on that other side of the equation too, then?
I would say that, we're having the conversation,
okay,
right? And we only have so much control, and I'm always going to be strong about staying in my lane. But I think it is a conversation that's being had. I am encouraged by the fact that technology companies have been releasing their diversity reports in these last couple of years. I think we've got to keep doing that. We've got to keep asking the questions. And then when young people like Kasey end up in those interviews in those companies, they got to be strong enough to ask the questions too, to understand what the culture, because I've known so many women who've gone into this field, who've been there for a couple of years, and have walked out the back door because they didn't feel like that was the space for them. And we can't continue to do that and be the innovative country that we want to be.
Yeah,
right?
it's exactly. And in 2021, it's hard to believe that Kasey Wilson, you're still a pioneer. And I'm wondering how many different kinds of organizations are trying to tap you to get out there and recruit more African American girls in high schools in Columbus, helping JPMorgan Chase recruit more people. I mean, it's a big role.
Absolutely. And I believe that the opportunity TechWork gave me when I came back as an instructor was where I was able to touch the hearts of those to know that you can still be strong in such a big, or we could say a broad major, being computer science. It just depends on what they like. Even having an artistic ability is something that could bring someone even closer to technology, because technology is very innovative. And with that safety that TechWork created, for students, especially who wanted to get further ahead, where we were able to be what we call the rock stars and really go in and really ask questions and really want to get further and deeper into what can technology offer for me? What is there besides just CSS and HTML? And then being able to have the funds to have robots and to buy these robots and have these sessions and not just exposure, as Lisa said, but to provide that exposure and safety is very key, because it can be very, let's say, it can be very, it's such a very, much so, it can be hard to work in an environment where people are constantly going and hard to reach out, but TechWork does give you that opportunity and give you the resources that are needed in order to prepare you to do such, as in, finding a job at JPMorgan was because I went to a hackathon, which is where you're coding for a nonprofit, and I was able to code an app for the Breast Cancer Foundation, Susan G. Komen, and that is what gave them they were able to see that I had potential to be in that And as all the skills that were in my toolbox from TechCorps, I was able to be myself and have the potential to work in such a big corporate environment. Why? Because we're just the piece of the puzzle.
Well, Kasey Wilson, best wishes for every success going forward. I really appreciate your time today. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
And Lisa Chambers, I appreciate your time as well. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Ann.
Lisa Chambers is the National Executive Director of TechCorps. It's a nonprofit organization that promotes equal access to computer science programs, skills, and resources for students in grades K-12. Kasey Wilson was one of those kids. She's a software engineer at JPMorgan Chase and a graduate of TechCorps. She's also the first African-American woman to graduate from Ohio Dominican with a computer science degree. Thanks to you both. We have more Tech Tuesday coming up, so stay with us. This is All Sides with Ann Fisher on 89.7 NPR News.